It's time for some more backyard RC cinematography, doing our best to make these micro models look more like the real thing. We've got some big plans for this year, so let's get started. Hello everyone and welcome! Spring has finally arrived here in Ohio, which of course means warmer temperatures, green foliage, and for us here at Make It RC, it's time to do some small-scale cinematography. This of course is the time of year when we play with RC cars in the backyard, racing around, crashing into things, and somehow people on the internet seem to enjoy it almost as much as we do. Though of course there is some method to the madness. As you'll know if you've been following this channel for really any length of time, I certainly enjoy building these lifelike radio-controlled models, doing my best to replicate the appearance and mechanics of the real thing as closely as possible. Utilizing highly detailed plastic model kits such as these provides a very accurate appearance, while incorporating some tiny electronics and custom-designed 3D printed components makes them drivable. No doubt a very fun hobby, but what do you do once they're completed? Well, why not take some inspiration from real-world Hollywood car chases, particularly older ones when there was little or no use of special effects, and try to replicate some of the action on a much smaller scale and on a much tighter budget. Of course, we've had a lot of fun showcasing these results in some prior videos here on the channel, and this year I'm hoping to go even further. Just as I've done previously, I'm putting together a storyboard and planning some things out for an entire chase scene, hopefully jam-packed with plenty of small-scale action and destruction. As multiple people are involved in creating the sets, filming, and driving, combined with dry, calm weather being required when filming outdoors, what I've decided to do is film the chase in sections, following a predetermined plan illustrated in the storyboard. Eventually, we'll be able to compile all of that footage that we've captured into one long, cohesive chase sequence, maintaining continuity over the course of the months that we'll be recording. Well, that's the plan anyways, and this past weekend marked the first step towards completing this goal, so let's have a closer look at what we've been working on most recently and what's ahead with this project. So a cool car chase needs some cool cars, right? These here are the two vehicles that I've chosen, a 68 Shelby GT500 and a 77 Pontiac Trans Am. Both of these cars sit on top of our FFR SE1 chassis, providing a nice balance of scale performance and durability, as well as both being powered by 2S LiPo batteries and 4,000 RPM N20 motors, giving them enough pep to effortlessly break those rear tires loose. Two nice looking vehicles that I've showcased in some previous videos here on the channel. Only slight flaw in appearance that I notice is the lack of a driver figure in that Trans Am. Other than that, they both have a great lifelike appearance that'll certainly contribute to the realism of each scene. A nice blend of scale aesthetics and RC performance, which should work well for what we want to do with this project. Of course, I've got no shortage of other RC vehicles to either have parked in the background or driving down the street. We'll even be incorporating the semi into this chase as well. Like with basically anything, there are some limitations to what we're going to be able to create here, mainly as a result of budget, time, space to work with, and the fact that we're using DIY RC models that at times can be a bit difficult to drive. Not to mention, we only have one set of vehicles, so we can't beat them up too bad. But there's still tons of potential here, even with these limitations in mind. We'll do the best we can, and hopefully we'll end up with something that we can all enjoy watching in the end. We'll work with our strengths, such as having these cars basically crashing into a bunch of stuff, as that's always a crowd pleaser and it's very easy to do. We don't really have any wide open cityscapes or highway systems to film in, so we'll focus a lot on these tight streets and narrow alleys and use the green screen to help add some additional depth, lessening the need to have a gigantic collection of cardboard buildings and other three-dimensional props. Camera equipment is going to be limited to smartphones and action cameras set to the highest frame rate possible so that the footage can be slowed down while editing, again adding realism to each shot. While this won't provide the best looking cinematography, the jump from 240 FPS smartphones to high frame rate purpose-built cameras, along with the necessary lenses better suited to filming small stuff like this, is quite a step up. So we're going to have to make do with what we have here and try to make it look as good as we can. Of course, our prop budget is pretty much zero, mostly repurposing trash and other random objects. We'll have a closer look at this process more a little later on in this video with the latest $0 item I was able to acquire. Maybe I can make this look like some kind of building. But in the end, it's all just about having fun, taking on this project as a challenge, and seeing how good we can make the finished result. It's been a long winter, so we kept things relatively simple for this first round of RC cinematography. The poor green screen looks like it hasn't enjoyed the winter too much, as there's quite a few air bubbles that have formed. Hopefully that isn't too big of an issue for when it comes time to remove the green screen in post and add in some more lifelike visuals. Aside from using the green screen to add in some backgrounds, we're going to try and keep the quote-unquote CGI to an absolute minimum. I'm well aware we live in an era where you can simply type in a prompt and AI will spit out a video, but there's just no soul, challenge, or fun in that. To each their own, but there's certainly no shortage of AI content out there on the internet. So hey, say whatever you want about this series, but at least we're out here trying to do something creative. Just as we've done previously, we set out our cardboard props and began recording. Something I thought I'd point out, which was suggested in a previous video that I think is a really good idea, is to create some curbs like what you see here, rather than having all of the buildings sitting on the ground. It wouldn't necessarily be out of place not having curbs in something like an alleyway, but all I did here was apply some paint to some pieces of cardboard and then just place the buildings or whatever else on top. It's actually a pretty convincing look for how simple it is to do. Now, especially after they've been painted, they don't always lay flat. But that's usually easy to fix by using some heavy objects, such as this brick here, which can be disguised with something like this corrugated fence. As for the actual road surface, we generally like to use this gray vinyl mat, which has a good appearance and offers a smooth, low-friction surface. For this most recent round of filming though, I thought I'd try just using the bare concrete, since no sliding or other maneuvers that require a low-friction surface would be done on this day. I don't think this concrete looks too bad, but it is kind of hard to get something that looks just right. I'm not sure if I'm ready to start creating individual road surface pieces or anything like that just yet, even if there would be potential to make them look better than what we have here. As I've done previously, I'm putting together a storyboard, which is basically a visual, chronological outline of each and every shot, to sort of serve as a blueprint of what we want the final car chase to be. It's helpful to have everything planned out, though of course it is important to keep in mind the feasibility of everything included in the plan, and at times be willing to make changes or compromises when necessary. A very simple stunt, if you can even call it that, which I thought would be fun to include towards the beginning of the chase, would be to have the chase car, which in this case is a 77 Trans Am, crash out of the back of this semi-trailer. It would be something that's very easy to set up and doesn't really require any driving skills, so very easy to do, and it's also infinitely repeatable. It's not like other stunts such as crashing through a wall where you can only really do it once before you have to rebuild it again. Here we can redo this over and over again, as many times as we like, capturing it from different angles and making sure we get a shot that we're satisfied with. Now, I didn't want the car to fall the distance from the semi-trailer to the ground, so what I did was build this very simple loading ramp so the car would have something to drive down. Once again, the building material of choice is cardboard, which I glued together and then painted. I did a black wash and added some sections to look like patched areas of pavement just to try and add some additional detail and roughen up the look of this object. It turned out looking nice, and it worked perfectly for the scene that you see here. Again, since the stunt is repeatable, we were able to get it from multiple angles, and later we'll be able to decide what we think looks the best when it's time to make the final chase. As planned out in the storyboard, we also recorded some shots of the GT500 driving past the trailer, which will be seen before the Trans Am makes its reveal. We're not necessarily recording everything here in the order of its appearance in the final chase. That's where having a storyboard can really come in handy, as we'll make sure that every shot we need is recorded, and if it's easier to do specific things on certain days, we can do that. While not exactly over the top in terms of action, this first round of filming went very well, as again we kept things simple here to start, but we'll certainly be trying out some more ambitious things as we move forward, of course more on that to come. So something I thought would be kind of fun to showcase in this series is the construction of some of these set pieces, buildings, and well basically everything else that goes into creating these chases, aside from just the cars themselves. As I've mentioned before, actually building some of these objects is one of my favorite parts of creating these videos. I understand this type of thing might not be everyone's cup of tea. The channel is called Make It RC after all, and this isn't exactly that. Sort of RC adjacent at best here with what we're doing. I'll see how interested everyone is in some of the behind the scenes stuff like this, and perhaps show more or less of it accordingly. If you are interested in these steps of the process, definitely leave a like and a comment below, otherwise I'll just do most of this stuff off camera. But anyways, as you can probably tell, a lot of these buildings are primarily made of cardboard, with some paint, random junk, and occasionally some 3D printed items helping to really bring them to life. I'm not necessarily pushing myself to make all of these buildings photorealistic by any means, but I think at least with some of them, if you squint a little, they look pretty convincing. We're just having fun here, and I don't want to invest too many hours into one single prop trying to make it look perfect. Of course, a little imagination and some creativity can go a long way, as we have a look at this recently acquired item. I'm honestly not sure what exactly this is called, but it appears that you're supposed to hang it from a wall vertically like this, and then I guess you can display some stuff on the inside. That's all well and good, but my mind was looking at this object a little differently. I don't know if you're thinking what I'm thinking, but I was thinking this could look good as maybe a showroom for a car dealership or maybe an old school diner. The creative wheels were turning and the price fit into our budget, so I decided to see if I could work a little magic here and make a nice prop out of this thing. Here we can see it next to a car to get an idea of the scale. Technically, probably a little on the smaller side in terms of accurate scaling, but just about all the buildings here tend to be more on the smaller side, which has the benefit of these buildings being easier to store and sometimes looking like they're further in the background than they really are. For these reasons, it isn't at all an issue if this building ends up looking like it's a slightly smaller scale relative to the cars. A few things to note as I transform this into a prop is, again, I'm not exactly going for maximum detail here. This is just supposed to be a prop on a quote-unquote movie set, not a full-on diorama that I'm ready to pour a ton of time and effort into in order to get a really accurate model of an actual building. What I'm looking to do is see how easily and cheaply I can turn what you're seeing here into a more convincing diner. Also, this is a fairly distinctive object when compared to a lot of the other buildings that we have in our stash, which are basically a bunch of rectangular cardboard boxes. This may limit the amount of times that we can use it in our chase before it starts to become noticeably repetitive. We want to at least try to keep things looking fresh and unique from one scene to another as best as we can. With this in mind, I don't want to just get one building out of this object, I'd like to get two or more. I'm thinking both a dining room at a restaurant and maybe a showroom at a car dealership. I don't know, we'll see what I can come up with. But what I was really envisioning at this point was a vintage diner, so that's what I ended up creating here first. I got started by cleaning the thing up, and we got some nice fake foliage on the inside, so that's certainly a nice bonus. I'm sure we'll be putting that to use later on. What I did next to try and make this look more like an actual building was add a wall or a footing, whatever you would call it, down around the outer perimeter, just as you see here. Just a little bit of cardboard and some hot glue, but that alone is definitely moving things in the right direction. I also went ahead and added some paint to the roof. As cool as the sort of solarium look this thing had previously would be, I think going for more of a metal roof look is going to be the way to go, as it'll better fit the aesthetic I'm going for. You'll also notice I added some greenery around this outer perimeter here, covering up this section to make it look more like some bushes or ivy or something has been planted. I don't know, I barely even know what I'm doing here at this point, but as long as it looks okay, that's what it's all about. Basically, I just scooped in a bunch of Mod Podge, which will dry clear, and then threw in some of the most foliage looking stuff that I could find, which was some green tea leaves. Not bad, I certainly think it's convincing enough. I later poured in some watered down Mod Podge to help further secure everything in place, and it also rehydrated those tea leaves to kind of help fill the space out better. This also has the bonus of making this prop smell good, so I guess until it rots or molds or whatever, that'll be nice. And then I did the final round of painting on the roof with some silver paint. Again, I was definitely digging the solarium look that this thing had before, but for a vintage diner, I think that metal roof here is going to better fit that aesthetic. I thought it was looking pretty good at this point. So good, in fact, I decided to splurge and invest a few cents worth of plastic into 3D printing a sign to go on top. I fired up Autodesk Fusion and created a simple diner sign. I'm sure I'll be making some more signs for other businesses in the future, but for now it's looking good, so I sent it over to the printer. I'm not sure if anyone in the audience needs a diner sign for their project, but the STL files have been posted over on Patreon if you're interested. I guess you could just glue everything into place, but I did include some holes for some M1 size hardware. Because I want to try and incorporate this prop into different businesses and make it look like different things, I made sure that the sign had its own stand rather than being permanently secured to the roof. I'll have the ability to swap out different signs or incorporate this object into another larger building, sort of kit bashing if you will. This will help us to get some more mileage out of this particular prop, rather than having to reuse the same diner over and over again, which will become repetitive. I still think it could use a simple interior and maybe a nice wall there in the back so it doesn't look like it's just glass going all the way around, but yeah, definitely a nice prop to add to the collection. I'm sure we'll be able to spice it up with some additional details, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. I also like that this is one of the few road-facing buildings that we have right now. A lot of our current prop selection is more like industrial buildings and back alley looking facades. They're very easy to make, as industrial buildings and the backside of buildings generally aren't very decorative or complex, but having some more road-facing buildings like this will be nice to add to the collection. And of course, a green screen in the back will certainly help as well, to make it look like the city goes well beyond the roughly 4x8 foot area that we're filming everything in. I'm definitely excited to see what kind of shots we can get with these new props that I'm working on, and of course, like I said, I do enjoy this process of making these items, especially this diner, which I think turned out looking great. So there you go, the Make It RC 2026 car chase making season is well underway. I look forward to sharing more of this process with all of you, as well as seeing what we're able to put together once we compile all the footage. If you'd like to see the previous car chase that we made, I will leave a link to that video below in the description. It's honestly probably one of my favorite videos we've ever made. We've definitely got some wild stuff planned, but I'm not sure how well some of it's going to go, so I don't want to say anything too specific. Just stay tuned to see what we're able to pull off. It's possible I might be 3D printing dozens and dozens and dozens of 1/24 scale cinder blocks as I'm making this video. I'm sure they won't have to worry about anything crashing through them, but I certainly enjoy making these types of videos, though I will say if this type of video is something you'd like to see more of, I would highly encourage you to hit that thumbs up and leave a comment below. Videos like these do take quite a bit of time to make, so if you guys enjoy seeing some of the more behind the scenes stuff and watching this chase being made, I'll definitely keep on making videos like this. But if the set building and R&D isn't really as interesting to people, I completely understand. If no one cares what kind of cookies make the best walls to smash through, or how we can make the best possible sugar glass that'll shatter with one of these tiny cars smashing through it, I completely understand that might not be everyone's cup of tea, especially on an RC channel. Obviously the chase video is happening no matter what, but I'll kind of gauge whether or not more or less of these behind the scenes videos should be made based on everyone's interest. Just trying to put out the best videos that I can that not only I enjoy making, but as many of you as possible will enjoy watching as well. I've got more ideas, interests, and projects going on right now than I have time to make videos, so just have to kind of pick and choose what I think everyone's going to enjoy the most. But that's going to be all for today's video. As always, a huge thanks to all of you for watching, as well as to all of our patrons over on Patreon and channel members here on YouTube for helping to make these videos possible. The support is greatly appreciated, and I'll see you all in the next video.